Today we have a great session ahead of you. It's a conversation with JC and Rollie. We're going to dig a little bit deeper into the three brands within the family of JC and Rollie. And I want to introduce our guests. First of all, we have Jane Thiergart, who is in Chicago, your lovely line leader for JC and Rollie. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. And then we have Shelly Rando on behalf of JC and Rollie. Welcome, Shelly.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Well, we wanted to get together to have a conversation based upon some really great conversations that took place across the country last month. I hear there were some pocket meetings that were scheduled where some TMs attended. Can you tell us, Shelly, about those pocket meetings, why they were initiated, and then what transpired at those meetings?
You bet. These were great, and we're really appreciative for One Coast for allowing us to do them. And it really started because about 90 days into the relationship, we really wanted to pause and look back and figure out kind of what's working, what's not working. And through that process, it was kind of great because two kind of key things popped up that were pretty obvious. One was we said we really identified some things that we as a vendor could have done better as a new vendor to the One Coast family. And so we identified, for example, yes, we did some great product training. You guys were so engaged in Atlanta, all the product training we went through because we're a new brand. But we started asking ourselves, did we really do a good job going deep into like what our purpose is? Like, why do we exist? What gap are we trying to fill for One Coast in the market? Did we do a good job really digging into like our brand comparisons and our target market? And even little things like, did we really dig into like the price value relationship with our products instead of just the prices? So we quickly identified some misses on our end that we wanted to really just evaluate and get into. But to do that, the second thing that popped out of this evaluation was we really do want to stop and listen and learn from the TMs to understand really what are the challenges that they're facing 90 days into the business relationship. And more importantly, if we listen to those, what could we do better or more of to help? So with the help from One Coast, we were able to travel to some great cities. We had some live conversations with a subgroup of the reps. And what I loved about that was not only hearing, as much time as we spent on listening to the challenges, the groups really were just diving in, and we spent equal amount or greater amount of time really taking those challenges and figuring out how do we turn them into opportunities. So that kind of leads to why we're here today, because of those great dialogues. We wanted to share some of those points and some of the things that came out of those.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciated you guys taking the time with our TMs, and I think that's what's key to a great partnership is that open communication and that dialogue. So thank you again for that. You just mentioned that you knew that there was a gap in some of the learning on behalf of the TMs and kind of what you guys had shared with them or not shared with them. So in thinking a big picture, can you talk a little bit about how the three brands fit within the marketplace, how they fit within One Coast, and then also, that whole big question about where it fits within Hallmark. Can you share a bit about those things with us today?
This directly relates back to one of the observations we had for ourselves, which is things we could have done better. These brands were truly designed to fill not only a gap and bring something new to the One Coast portfolio, but honestly, we work on these brands every day to fill a gap in the marketplace as well. And we know there are so many great brands out there, and in order for us to bring something unique and different, we constantly have to stay true to our purpose when we're designing products and thinking about the brand. So for example, if you look on here, everything we do kind of has to have this formula. We're looking for to bring well-designed product to the market. It has to have excellent quality. We are constantly looking for unique things to bring to the marketplace, but most importantly, at accessible price points. And the purpose here that we strive for is never an or, it has to be an and. So the group is constantly reevaluating this to make sure that we understand that we're bringing this stuff to you so that you have an opportunity to go find new opportunities in the market. And I'll be honest, we talk about this in the training. And Keith was sharing some slides on his phone. The team travels the world to kind of find this formula. He was showing some pictures of these like roads that lead to nowhere in foreign countries. And you would think, well, why would they be there? And that's because this is where they're finding this unique product. They're going outside of the major cities, going into the factories, They're looking for processes too that come out of these areas that are not your typical processes, because we want to be unique and different. So these are the types of things that the team is constantly looking at, and the formula we're trying to build so that we can fill a unique role for not only one coast, but also in the marketplace.
Yeah, and I think.
And then you talked about.
Oh, I was just going to ask real quick. Where was that location again? Because that was a really interesting story that Keith shared. I can't remember where it was.
It was in India, and they had this. It was this dragon kiln, is what he was showing a picture of. And imagine, we think about a kiln, a small little oven that you put ceramics in. This was a 600-year-old kiln that goes up the side of a mountain, and inside of that is how they do the ceramics. That's how they put the ceramics in all the way up the mountain. And what you get from that are unique finishes that are all unique and not alike. So these are the types of things we're trying to find and to bring unique things to the market and not just be a me too.
That's awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. And you asked the question around how we fit in a Hallmark portfolio. And this is probably the best way to represent it. If you look at other companies, there's a lot of brands out there that are constantly leveraging sub-brands to fit unique and relevant needs to the market. If you think about Coca-Cola, for example, they're known for a long time as a soft drink company, but they probably think of themselves as a beverage company, obviously. So when the trend of healthy beverages came upon the marketplace, they knew they probably couldn't go out to the market with Coke water. Same with Starbucks. When the tea trend hit, they knew they probably couldn't go out there with Starbucks tea because people identified them with coffee, not tea. So Coca-Cola goes out with Smart Water and Vitamin Water, and Starbucks solution to that is Tivana. And much like that, when you think about Hallmark, we're truly a connections company. And so some of the sub-brands that we have are truly trying to make that extended reach and using sub-brands to help get there. So we're excited to bring these to portfolio, and it's what offers newness and reach to the market as well.
Exciting, very exciting. So, yeah, sorry, I think it's your turn, Jane.
Okay, as I have been showing our 3 new brands to my customers, it has become apparent that they really weren't intent to be direct replacements for our departing brands. Can you comment on that? How are they different? And are there comparable brands out there that we should be looking for as we're targeting new customers?
This is a great one. You're right. We did talk about this a lot, and you're exactly right in the fact that these brands were never intended to replace the departing brands. They were intended to kind of add to. So as the team creates products, this is a great example of just home accents that are comparable brands. As the team is creating products, they're constantly scouring the marketplace, because back to that formula we talked about, we constantly want to figure out how we're going to do things different and better. But to do that, you have to look at what your competition is bringing. And so these are brands like Bloomingville in the home accents, Creative Co-op, Hallelujah, Home Art. These are all wonderful brands that have high aesthetic, high design, great quality, great assortments. And we know if we're going to bring something to the market, we have to compete with these guys, but do something even better. So again, these are the types of brands we're looking at. And if we want to also talk about some gift and stationery brands, if you want to go to the next slide, here are some examples of Isola, Rifle Paper, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, Bando. These are wonderful brands as well in the gift and stationery realm that the teams are constantly looking at. And this is who we're trying to compare to and do something unique and different. We want the consumer, or the customer, that's taking Rifle Paper, and we want them to say, I've had Rifle Paper, what else is out there? That's enter Easy Tiger Stationery. So these are the types of brands we're looking at. And I'll tell you, honestly, if you see these brands in stores too, that's a great signal that they're great fits for our brands as well.
For sure. And these are some great brands too. I mean, I think this is really eye-opening, at least for me it was, to know, okay, if you're kind of stumped as to where to go in a certain neighborhood or city, just looking at, some of these other brands and knowing those stores that are influencers, these are great ways to at least start thinking differently about the JC and Raleigh brands. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, so we know a little bit more about how to position the brands. Something that you mentioned earlier when we started was that objection to price. How do we address it when a retailer says to us they know another brand, like say even Creative Co-op, that costs less? What are your suggestions on how we address that?
This is definitely something we heard a lot about in training as well. So it was so helpful to hear what the challenges that the TMs were having. And it was great to talk about, well, how do we overcome those? So, in our initial training, again, we spent a lot of time talking about our products as well as our price points on those products. What we probably could have done a better job, though, is really honing in on price-value relationships. So we're going to show just a couple of examples here that kind of bring that to life. But obviously found. We knew that was a trend coming into the market, and we wanted to be on board with it and on time with it. So as a team looked across, obviously great brands and retailers were coming out with found. We had to do something and stay true to our purpose. So for example, Restoration Hardware, they're selling these found items. If you look, their medium and large bowls here are between $110 and $170. Pottery Barn has them as well. Their medium bowls can go up to $200. Both of these brands have great products, but they're also decorative use only. So as we go to those little remote areas with the grassy roads, with, you'd never want to be there if you looked at them, and try to find these items. We also, again, remember our formula. We want to bring great items, but also at accessible price points. So with JC and Rollie, to be different, we take some of these items and we resurface them in Singapore 409 and actually make them food safe. So that's something that's an attribute that the other ones don't have. And also, if you look at our price points, we're actually below them with that extra added feature of being food safe. So this gets back to, we could charge more if we wanted to be comparable, but we're not trying to. It's back to that, we want to have accessible price points for the retailers. And another example that was brought up in the training that we spent some time on, which was great, was around stationery. And some people say, gosh, how do I compare the stationery? Because the price points in some cases seem higher than some of the brands my stores are carrying. And back to that comparable brands, we're looking at Rifle Paper, we're looking at Bando, the stores that carry those, they're looking for something different and saying, how are our prices comparing and what are we going to do different than them to actually be even better? And so for Rifle Paper and Bando, their planners are between $30 and $35. They have great products. The things that we're trying to bring different to that are not just paper covers that are highly designed. We're going into like fabric wrap covers. As you guys heard us say, Even Easy Tiger doesn't just do lined pages on everything. Every single page of their planner is designed by hand. Those guys spend forever to do 365 unique pages. So those are the things we're trying to increase our price value and compete with our comparable brands.
Great.
Okay, well, I have also heard from my retailers quite frequently that our items generally are too high priced. Any thoughts how to address that objection?
That's, it's funny, in that last section, we talked about price and price value relationships, but it's probably good to just honestly dig a little bit into just how we approach pricing in general. This might be just good background information as everyone's going into stores. When the team looks across all the portfolio, and when I say portfolio, I mean all three brands, they're constantly looking at number of SKUs, but also price point per SKU. And that they're constantly evaluating that to say, what's the average price that we're trying to offer across our line? And they strive and work hard and go up and go down in certain areas to make sure that that sticks to a $25 retail as our average price offered. And some people in the training ask, well, why $25? Why not higher? Why not lower? And that $25 is important because we know it's a retail sweet spot for gifting. And so we don't want our line, the team could easily fall in love with great items that are $75 and all of a sudden your average price offered is too high. Or fall in love with great little pick-me-ups, then all of a sudden your average price offered is too low and you're never going to get to the range you need. So that's what we offer. It's super important though, just because you offer it doesn't mean they're going to buy it that way, right? So what we have to do is go back in and look at our average price sold. So yes, we offered that, but what are they buying when you go into the stores? And year to date, the way we look at this is we look at units sold. So if you look at pricing, it's obviously, tells a different story. But we looked at year-to-date units sold. And what it's telling us is that right now, the average price that's selling is between $15 and $75 retail across the brand. And this is wonderful. This is exactly what we want to see. If we sell all 75, it means that we don't have enough pick-me-up in the line or they're not finding it. If it's all 15, it means that they're kind of afraid to get into these higher price points or maybe the price value is not there in their mind. So what this $15 to $75 range tells us is that you guys are also doing a great job in the stores helping them buy across the line. Because when you do that, that tells us that they're going to have a great assortment at their store, that the consumer is going to find a range of great products as well. So we love that the fact that we're seeing this, and it also kind of shows us that they're not afraid of some of those, higher price points.
Okay, well, Shelly, you mentioned the product mix provides opportunities for the retailer to create great assortments in their stores.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so with an opening order of $300, how do I position the assortment to get a higher order value?
Good question.
The story, I would say the story to this one is honestly, cross-selling pays off. That's the short story on this one. It's so interesting to see this. When we noticed when customers are buying one of the brands, their average order value is around $750. However, when they are buying across all the brands, magic happens, and that average value of the order goes up over $500 more to $1,250. And you'll find some stores that I'm sure have said, well, gosh, I only am interested in the JC and Rollie frames, for example. That's all I really want. And we've seen where you guys can get in there and really show them how they can buy across the brands and merchandise them together. And then again, all things rise. The assortment in the store gets better, the average price gets better, and then the order value gets better.
Okay. All right. Well, I have a store called Marcel's, and they order across all three brands and execute it very well. I think we have a photo to share of their display.
Yeah.
Shelly, tell me what you think of that.
What I see, honestly, I don't know if you guys can see the range here, but when I look at these photos is exactly what we just talked about on that last slide. You see how they're ordering. I see the Floor 9 bowls. I see Easy Tiger planters. I see JC and Rollie paper holders. I see JC and Rollie pedestals sitting next to Easy Tiger planters. I'm seeing all of this goodness that this store is doing such a wonderful job merchandising together. So it shows me that they're not afraid to show how these three brands can sit together and have a cohesive statement at the store. And then as a consumer, what I see is lots of great things I can pick up and buy and kind of hunt for as I go, and not everything looking the exact same. So I think they've done a great job of buying across and assorting across.
Yeah, this is really cool, Jane. I mean, what a great picture to share with our fellow TM so they can really see the potential that they have with a retailer across all three brands. So
they do a great job.
Yeah, story to share. And Jane, how would you say that your other existing JC and Rollie customers are doing? Have they been placing regular reorders?
Well, I'm beginning to see some momentum with that. And one of my best strategies is to be dropping into my stores with our newest holiday catalog that was released in March. Shelly, do you have any ideas how I can get my accounts to buy more often and reorder the everyday part of the line?
At the end of the day, for all of us to win, we need to have these great new accounts, but also we need to all have these new stores and these existing stores order multiple times a year. So our job in doing that and what we owe you is to provide newness multiple times throughout the year. And in order to do this, we want that newness to align with how those retailers are looking to buy, right? We know they're needing things, that's what this slide represents, is we know they're needing things multiple times throughout the year. So what we're doing is offering you newness 3 times a year. So Q1, Q2, where that's obviously the debut, that's the big opportunity to show you. This year we actually had the launch of a new brand, but then every year we'll bring newness into Q1, Q2. And then, of course, we didn't want to wait for holiday. We could have waited and put holiday with Q3, Q4, but the reason why we brought in that newness in the March holiday catalog is we wanted to provide each of you an opportunity to go out and have another reason to visit the store. So that holiday catalog, we heard this a lot, and when we were sitting with the reps, it was a way to say, hey, I know I was in here before, and you were kind of on the fence. Let me show you this great new holiday catalog. They said that worked better, to your point, Jane, than going back and saying, I know you've seen this before. Let me show you the same thing again. So we'll always introduce holiday in March, and then, of course, Q3, Q4 is a chance to make sure that we have freshness coming into you as well. So we'll have great new items coming in. Our catalog just got done. We are so excited. It's on the printer as we speak. We cannot wait for you to see it. It'll be shipping out next week. So all of those, though, 3 times a year, we're trying to bring you freshness so that you can get into the stores and have reasons to make multiple visits. The other thing on this slide that's important to point out is that reorder opportunities obviously happen throughout the year. And those are great opportunities to go back in as well and to see if they need a reorder, as you guys do so well. And of course, we heard this at training too. Easy Tiger cards are one of those, they're only 6 in, so they'll actually turn faster than a 6-week period sometimes. So if you ever need excuse, they've ordered Easy Tiger cards, that's another great one to go in and ask them if they need more. Lastly on this one, the goal at the end of the day is that we are needing stores to order 3 times a year. And not the exact same SKUs, but just 3 orders. So again, Q1, holiday, Q3, Q4, when you position it that way, those are the 3 times to have that opportunity to do that.
That's great. And I will say I heard some great success stories too with that holiday catalog. There were some TMs that said that they walked into stores, existing One Coast customers that hadn't bought in January, and they walked in with the holiday catalog and got a holiday order and then also everyday order. So thank you for that. That was a great gift to the territory managers.
We heard the same thing, and that's kudos to you guys for taking advantage of that. So yeah, that was great to hear.
Okay, so we're talking about accounts now, and our customers, our retailers. What are your thoughts on account development? How do we focus on growing volume through our retailers? What are your thoughts there?
Great conversation about this in the live conversations we had last month. And really, the takeaway that we came away from here is there are several opportunities to grow account base, and they're all not around having to go out and prospect a new account. We talked about some of the facts on this slide that just honestly showed wonderful opportunity. So, for example, if you look at the JCR existing accounts, so the ones that ordered last year, year to date, only less than 50% of those have purchased in calendar year 2019. And we obviously know we're not going to get 100% of those customers back. You never always do, but there's great opportunity there in the ones that do want to come back. And when they do order, we're noticing that those existing customers, because they've been with us a bit, have a $150 higher average price on their order. And then, of course, then we looked at the One Coast existing account base, which, as you guys know, is wonderful and massive and huge. And currently, year to date, less than 10% have purchased out of that base. So again, we see this as opportunity. And we all know that we're not going to get to 100% or going to be brand right fit, And so it's not that we're going to go from 10% to 100%. Not all those are going to be the right stores. But when you think of less than 10%, it just shows the opportunity that's there, even in the One Coast existing account base. And then lastly, we did talk about there are going to be great opportunities for new accounts. And this is that thing going back to the beginning where our job is to bring something new to portfolio, and hopefully that opens up new doors for you as well. And so we talked a little bit around just tips on how to easily find these new stores that might be right around the corner from where you're already going, but they're new opportunities for not only our brands, but potentially other brands in your portfolio.
That's right. Excellent. Oh, okay. Let's go back here.
And then, and Jane, I was just, before I'm going to go through some of these examples, but before I do, did you have, what luck are you having finding new accounts?
What has been really serving me well is using store locators, talking about those comparable brands, going on their websites, looking for a store locator, targeting an area that I'm going to that day, and I've opened a handful of accounts that way. So that's been hugely helpful to use.
Marlena, you, I think, have some stories around this as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I have a funny bathroom story. But I was riding with a territory manager in Southern California, and we had just come off of talking about this from the pocket meetings, and I remembered that brand name, Bloomingville. And we were in an existing JC and Raleigh account, and it was a beautiful florist, and I had gone into their restroom, and in their back in that storage area as well were some boxes of Bloomingville product. So I immediately made that connection and thought, wow, if the TM had not been in that store and saw those boxes of Bloomingville, they could know, all right, this is something that is comparable to the JC and Raleigh family of brands. And, they could pitch them on the spot. So.
And this is perfect. And this works. This is so easy to do. To Jane's point, just pop in your zip code and, into Rifle Paper's site, and then it'll show all the stores nearby. And those are going to be good candidates for stationery. That's just one example, but those other examples, Bando, Bloomingville, and Dava, all of them are great ways to do that. Other ways that we talked about as part of the training are just simple Google searches too, which I'm sure people have done before, but we do this ourselves, quite frankly, as we're looking and going into market tours into cities. We'll type in what are great specialty boutiques in Boston, Massachusetts? What are the best specialty gift stores? what are new retail concepts in the area, just to keep, understanding what new ones are popping in. And then once you get into those specifics, and I will tell you, if you just say, like, give me stores in Boston, of course, 1,000 will show up. So it's trying to find those really specialty or gift boutiques or keywords that help. And then, of course, once you get into that, obviously you'd go into the most relative search results and kind of look into it to see if they kind of fit. And then after you go through that, you're going into just looking a little bit more deeper into the store to say, gosh, yeah, now we're talking about this store has home, office, garden, giftable products. This is right on. I'm going to look at their website really quickly and see if they feel like a good fit, because there could be a lot of different home and office. So in the next slide, you're going to see kind of, if you look into their website, you start to go, you get a feel, right, of the store after you search them on Google, and you're like, yep, I can see the brand fitting right in here. I'm booking an appointment on this one. So those are just some Google searches. We've talked about the store locators. Another one is Instagram. This came up as we were talking. Instagram's an easy one too. I think Marlena's used this when she's been on the road too. You can just type in some hashtags. There's some great examples here. Shop local Atlanta, shop small Atlanta, Atlanta home decor. With those hashtags, it'll pop up visuals, so you quickly get to see the type of store. And then if you see one you think looks like a great fit, you tap on it, and you get right into the details. So Instagram's another great one. And then lastly, our design team and merchant team uses things like the city guides as well. Design Sponge is a great one. These are just great city guides that literally are constantly going out and finding the cool new things in these great cities. So it'll talk about where are the greatest little gift shops, where are the greatest little restaurants. So Design Sponge is a good example of using a city guide to find some new retail as well.
Love it. I'm going to have to check out those city guides for my area too to find some cool.
Right?
Yeah, great resource. Okay, so we know how to go about looking for stores, but then the next step is we walk into a store. And thinking about some of the selling tools that a territory manager has. We know the catalog is beautiful. We're really excited, like you are, to see the new one coming out. Jane, can you walk us through how you use the catalog and share some of the tips that we heard about at the pocket meetings?
Oh, totally. So what I do when I'm getting ready to go in to do a cold call, I target them as to specifically what brand am I going to pitch, what looks like it would fit them the best. I make sure my catalog is open to that cover. So as I'm walking in, they'll see that, and hopefully it'll connect with them right away. As I'm going through the catalog, I can talk confidently about best sellers because they're blown up. They're the biggest real estate on the page. So I have found that to be really helpful. Shelly, do you have any other ways that the catalog can be helpful to us?
Yes. It's funny. Before we move on to that, though, I was just thinking the new catalog that's coming out for Q3, Q4, it will have those same dividers. So every single brand will have its own divider you can flip to. And then in the back, we added the holiday section. So if the store wants to just look at holiday, you can flip to holiday as well. So we'll have 4 sections going into Q3, Q4 instead of 3, but it'll have the same flow that you're used to. So just a kind of a public service announcement on that. Other ways that this goes back to Keith did a great job in the discussions. These are things that we do every day as we're torturing ourselves trying to make these catalogs the best they can be. But we failed to probably just do the obvious thing, which is tell you about that. And so I'll go through quickly some of the things that we do that ultimately are there to help you as a tool. So for example, here's a great example of how we think about key items. So on this page are the crafted dough bowls, the crafted dough bowls, and what you're going to see is the one on the left-hand side takes up a whole half part of that spread. That is to us a key item. Those are things that we have banked on that we think are going to be the top sellers, or that we know as we get history are selling really well. So it's going to get more coverage on a page to denote to you subtly this is a top seller. We purposely don't put little tags in there right now that say top seller or key item because we don't want them to just focus on those items. We want them to see the whole assortment. But the things on the right have a little bit smaller coverage, but it doesn't mean they're any less important. They're just supporting items. So you'll see on the right, they're a little bit smaller, but they're still great supporting items you want to build with that assortment. Same thing with the next slide. The ones at the top obviously have more space, which means they're denoted as top sellers or key items. The ones at the bottom are great supporting items that they can build that assortment around or assortment with. The other thing that it's funny, if you were in our rooms and heard how we literally have to torture these words to make sure they're getting what you need. These little paragraphs that we put in for like the found dough bowls and hand-turned pillar holders, these call-outs are ways that we're trying to tell you and the customer that how we drive to that purpose. So why did we do found bowls? How are we trying to do them differently than what they might see in others? How could they leverage these and actually be different than their competition? So those little paragraphs, I know it's hard for people to read paragraphs, and we try to be as succinct as possible, but those are really calling out attributes and details that help them stay ahead of their competition.
Those are great.
Also, little special detail call-outs. We know this, we've all seen this, these cast iron taper holders are wonderful to talk about in the showroom, right? Because everybody picks them up and we say, look how heavy they are. And I know some people said, you use them as weapons. I've heard that too. But when you get to catalog, it's really, really hard for people to not just look at that and say, how are these different than ceramic holders I've seen before? So this is where you're going to see call-outs. We'll put pop-ins that say, like, this is pulled enamel finish, or these are cast iron. You know, these are the attributes that we want you to try and understand as you're looking through it. Little things, too, like the Easy Tiger size charts, just trying to make sure that as they're buying, they can understand, too, how to buy. So we'll try to put in little things like that as well.
That's great.
And then when it comes to stationery, this is another one. We can't show all 365 pages of the stationery, which we know are all unique. So it's worth in advance, even if you have a few minutes, to read the little call-outs that the team puts in under each page for product, because those are actually selling tips for you. So that if someone does say, well, I think, you know, how's this different than what I have from this brand or that brand? Those details and attributes that are called out and typed down below are things that hopefully can help you get over those hurdles if you hear them, and or quite frankly, sell them for the price value, on the price value.
Great point.
And then some people had asked around, well, how do I know if it has retail packaging or not versus just, you know, out of the box? And anything that has retail packaging, we'll either show it, so that heavyweight pen, you can see the actual packaging there, or we'll do bump outs. So you'll see the tic-tac-toe. It'll say, those little pieces, we're not going to leave you hanging. You don't have to like find a little Ziploc bag for them. We've got a wonderful branded experience for you on how to hold those pieces. And so really all of those things to us bring that relationship to the product and the consumer on how we do our packaging as well. But if it's a call out, they have retail packaging. If you don't see the call out, they don't.
Super helpful. Oops, I went ahead a little bit too far. Well, this was great information, and from being at the pocket meetings, I know that the TMs that were there enjoyed all the information and learned a great deal. I mean, just this little bit here at the end about the catalog and how much work you guys put into it. I mean, it's really a super selling tool with all of the little call outs and extra information. It can really help you with your sales presentation. So now that we have covered what was covered at the pocket meetings, what's your vision for, you know, the rest of the year and for, you know, our partnership as we look ahead?
One of the, you know, in addition to in the pocket trainings, we really truly did get insight from those, and that was what we were trying to do. So we can't thank you guys enough for supporting us on that little journey. But we also, in addition to insights, we really took away some actions. We heard you. We heard what you said. We were trying to say, what can we go implement right now to take action on what we heard? So some of the things that you told us you needed that we're implementing are support in finding these new stores. And again, it's not all about new stores, but when you do want to find a new store, how do we do that? So some of the tools, we actually kind of even looked up a few and sent those on. The other thing we really heard from you, which makes total sense, right, is, hey, I love these stories that you're telling us around how you find items and, you know, what great found items you have and how they're different. But I tell my stores that, but then the store can't tell the consumer that. So we really need some help with some different point of purchase materials. And so even though we have some out on the hub, we're going to take it a step further, and we're going to introduce this summer some of our key items. We'll now start putting the point of purchase materials in the actual wholesale box for some of our key items. So we're executing that. They're getting printed as we speak, as a matter of fact, today. And then we're going to execute that in some of our items this summer. We heard you around rep samples. We've looked through we reevaluated the Q3, Q4 rep sample box after we got back to the training. The merchants went through, added some things, expanded on it, added a couple bigger items. We heard that from the reps as well. We also updated the top seller list from what we were seeing after the shows. Little things popped in and out, so we updated that, sent that out. I think it's on the hub right now. And then a couple other things are important. We talked about in these groups around how do we change the way we're distributing catalogs. So we knew at the front of the year, right, you guys were going out to all these new accounts, so all the catalogs went to you. As we look at Q3, Q4, what we're going to do is you're going to get 40 catalogs each. But then in addition to that, we're going to take anybody who's ordered from us now year to date, and we're going to send those catalogs directly to the retailer. So it'll be kind of a split distribution. They'll get it directly if they've ordered from us, and then you'll get 40 each so that you have to take into other stores as well. And of course, if you need more, always let us know. And then last but not least, we know that there are going to be times when, I think you guys have all heard about this Consider It Sold program. We know there are going to be times where you are going to find the right store. You're going to say, I know this store can sell these brands. And the customer might just be hesitant, right? They just may not want to pull the trigger. This Consider It Sold program, which is kind of like a guaranteed sell program, is really designed to help you get that customer over the goal line. So once they get over the goal line, we feel confident that they're going to like the product, they're going to want to reorder it, but we know you're going to be in those situations where they just won't pull the trigger. So the Consider It Sold program is here to help you honestly be a tool to honestly help get into those stores and get them going so we can get to those reorders. If you have any questions, I know the RSMs can go over it or we can go over it in more detail, but that's another program got implemented out of this training.
Oh, well, wow, that's amazing that you're sending out so many catalogs on our behalf, and I really love to have the option to use the Consider It Sold program. Thank you so much. Okay, so, well, now, what do you need from us, your sales team?
You know, this came up at the training too at the end, you know, and it for us it was we were pretty a couple of just big things up top. We really valued and loved this open communication, so we honestly just asked everyone to keep that coming. If you're having challenges, we'd love to hear them. We can't help each other unless we know what struggles are happening or what we can do better to help. And I think the other thing we just kind of asked for at the end of the training was, you know, after hearing all of this and just really kind of going out there with the new mindset now with the brands to say, okay, what did I learn that I can apply in a different way? And then that helps all of us. So then constantly keeping that open door in communication. And then I know after the video on 5/24, there's going to be regional follow-up calls, which we're going to have. One of the things that we loved about the training is this really great live interaction, which is hard to obviously, you know, replicate across multiple. So after this video call on 5/24, there'll be regional follow-ups where we're going to be able to emulate some of that live interaction and ask you questions around, you know, based on the training, what questions do you have? Bring ideas to share. Is there anything else that we can be doing differently or better for you? So that's going to happen 5/24, and we're super excited as a follow-up to do that.
Thank you guys so much. I mean, I really, truly enjoyed spending time with you all today and learning more about what occurred at the Pocket meetings and really just hearing the whole brand story again and what we're trying to do as partners together. So we look forward to seeing everyone on the 5/24 regional follow-up calls. Make sure you bring your questions and ideas to share. Thank you, Shelly, and thank you, Jane. And we will see you guys next week.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.